Welcome to the very unruly August garden. The tomatoes plants don't necessarily look beautiful right now, but there's a lot of fruit yet to be had. I think we've got a warm snap coming this week, of course, because it's the first week of school in an air-conditioned building, therefore it must be hot. So I anticipate a lot of these starting to blush and ripen this week. Here's my table of sweet potato starts that didn't get in the ground because there wasn't space. I may just kind of keep them going throughout the winter inside, see what they look like by spring. We have our beginnings of our fall garden here, planted way too thick, but I tend to be impatient, therefore that happens. We've got arugula, mustard greens, maybe some kale. I need to look back at my pictures. Do you ever get tired of looking at the face of a sunflower that looks like that? I certainly don't. I tried planting some lettuce this year in the shade of the sunflowers to try to get it going while it was still pretty hot. That has worked wonderfully. And what do you guys think? I was a little iffy on my Mexican sunflowers. Those are these guys right here. They took a long time to get going, but they're definitely growing on me. Have a completely different look to the sunflowers, these guys here, but I think I'm enjoying them. This year I did I think some semblance of a Florida weave on my pepper plants, where lower I kind of just crisscrossed in between each plant as I ran the two strings down each row. And then as the plants got bigger, I just went on either side. I think it's providing enough support. Some of them are leaning a little bit, which if I came out and added a little more support would be fine. I just haven't. The production this year has been just lovely. And right there we have some volunteer radishes and some more potatoes that we'll dig probably and get pretty close to frost, if not just after. The part of the garden that we just looked at is our new part of the garden that we started using our chicken tractor last year. It's done really well. So I'm weighing everything that comes out of it in terms of the produce, and I'll tally that at the end of the year. Last year we had about 200 pounds from that space. We'll see what we get this year. Say good morning to little Miss Cardinal there. We've started kind of doing a reset on a lot of parts of the garden. So right in here in the corner, there's been corn, there's been some tomatoes, butternut squash, and onions. And that's all done, torn out, harvested. So I'm putting a couple chickens in there. We're choosing a couple that have already gone into molt, so they don't need to lay eggs, so we don't have to worry about a nesting box. Provided they could lay them in the doghouse, we give them for some shade, but they don't need to, so they're not laying eggs. These are black beans, so they look just like string beans, but you just let them completely develop their pods. When the plant's about done, I just cut them and hang them on our front patio until they're dry, and then harvest them sometime in the fall. Doesn't this look like something that belongs like on some kind of alien outer space vegetable garden somewhere? We've got 2 kohlrabi here. I planted just 4. I don't know how long I can let them grow before the taste and the texture is off. We're gonna kind of see on that. They are massive. I think I need to harvest one soon and cook it, and then leave the other one and let it go a little bit longer, maybe until like frost, and see how that tastes. So I let a lot of the cauliflower and cabbage go this year. I just didn't get to it. Now here, this is interesting. Sometimes, you know, letting things go and being a lazy gardener pay off. These, I believe, are the blossoms or the flowers for this particular cauliflower, and I think they're just beautiful. So I want to just let that go and just see what does that look like as we let it progress. And then this one, I believe, is working on producing us a head of cauliflower, so just leaving that one be, I think, is going to give us a nice head of cauliflower this fall. So we had an issue with Brussels sprouts versus broccoli this year. Somehow double the number of Brussels sprouts got planted and no broccoli. So these are coming along. Like, I just stripped some of the leaves off. It's going to be a nice stalk of Brussels. And then these guys have quite a bit more growing time left, so we'll see how they produce. Our patch of basil, we've made lots of pesto this year. We found we freeze it in half-pint jars. That's about perfect. If we thaw one of those, that works well for a pasta dish. It makes us 2 pizzas. Mostly Friday nights in our household is pizza night. So I usually make one that has meat on it for my husband, one that doesn't for myself. So that works perfectly. First year growing eggplant, I decided to just grow it without putting anything on it, without attempting to deter the bugs, the flea beetles, that kind of thing, because I wanted to see what it did if I did nothing, and it's produced a little bit. So definitely next year if I plant it, I will be using, what are these guys? Oh, we've got, yeah, some snails there, I believe. Yeah, well, they can have a snack. So next year I will research, I think diatomaceous earth might work, probably, oops, excuse me, probably some insecticidal soap would work, so we're going to try that next year. Look at that stalk of Brussels. I am not an expert. I've successfully grown like 3 Brussels sprout plants, so we're gonna see how that turns out. But I didn't grow up eating them. My husband really likes them, and we've made them a few times and I've really enjoyed them, but I've got some learning to do in that aspect. Sweet potatoes go completely insane. There's 2 beds of sweet potatoes there. The vines just take over the garden. They're absolutely everywhere. They are my favorite thing to harvest. It's just kind of like getting a present because you have no idea what's in there. We did some more flowers in the garden than we typically do, and some of the zinnias did well, some of them didn't. This kind, which I think is like polar ice, has done wonderfully. Aren't those beautiful? And then in here, this is something my girls look forward to every year. These are our volunteer gourds that they'll use for their fall decorating, whether they paint them, carve them, whatever. They were free and have volunteered themselves in this corner of the garden. This always appears to be the pumpkin corner. Good morning, Mr. B. That doesn't want to focus. Come on, there we go. This corner here is one of my favorite parts of the garden. They are all volunteer sunflowers. I actually asked my neighbor, like, did you plant these kind last year? And she said she did. So I asked her if she'd continue to plant them because I much enjoy the birds bringing the seeds over and planting me a beautiful corner of sunflowers. Well, that's pretty much most of what's going on in the garden. It's been a little bit of a difficult year. We had a long dry spell. We had a really hot summer for our area, Western Pennsylvania. So our grass wasn't growing, so we didn't have as much grass clippings to add to our garden, and that's what conserves our moisture and keeps our weeds down and that kind of thing. So it's been a little tricky, but it's still growing. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in a video soon.